everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos. It's the podcast for geniuses and the only podcast where we look at the four pillars of modern mystery: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I got in my head about how I do this on autopilot, and I'm like, isn't it funny how I just know how to say this? I don't even think about it, and I just say it. And then I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about it. And then I forgot. Is there more to the preamble? Anyway, I'm Tom, an anime sicko.
I am Joe, an anime sicko. I'm going to speak fewer words than Tom.
I mean, that
is my promise to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to speak fewer words than me. I go on and on. The reason I'm so in my head about my autopilot is because we're not alone. If it was alone, I wouldn't give a shit. But now I'm performing for what is essentially a spiritual leader for me, the closest thing I have to a pope. We're doing a Guesto episode. It's fucking Minovsky, a.k.a. Ito Headman from Twitter. Hello.
Hello, anime sickos.
Hello. This is fun because you are just a guy who lives in my phone, but now I'm talking to you.
And you two are guys who live in my car radio when I'm commuting, and now I'm speaking to you. So, yeah.
Isn't technology just so fucked up?
Yeah. It bridges a bunch of sickos together. It's great.
So, Minovsky, we are referring to you via your internet handle so as to preserve your anonymity. Honestly, a genius fucking move.
Yeah, big brain.
Explain to the crowd in your own words, if they aren't familiar with the classic Ito Headman from Twitter. Who are you? How would you describe your whole deal?
So yeah, I am at MinovskyArticle on Twitter, and my whole deal is that sometimes I post things I enjoy, and other people enjoy my enjoyment.
No, folks, that sounds...
He's underselling.
That sounds so simple. And
you're underselling that, like, you do very thoughtful posts about manga, because, like, a lot of them are mostly just, like, what elf girl has the biggest tits, but, like, you know, like, it's important to have, like, actually, like, really good in-depth analyses. You did like something for a floating classroom, right? Am I getting that right?
Drifting
classroom, yeah.
I love that. That made me read the series.
Classroom. Yeah, fucking. I'm looking. There's Drifting Classrooms. You know why? It's because you posted the chair from Drifting Classroom.
Oh, one of the most big-brained pages in all of comics history.
It's so fucking good. The kid is just like, I need to be still. I need to become a chair. And then he becomes a chair.
It's amazing.
But like legitimately, like you think what, they're just having some guy on who fucking posts manga panels? That's not... No. Shut up, listener in my head who may or may not exist. Fuck you. Literally, this is how this came about. Joe and I were like, who are we going to ask to go Guesto mode next? And we're hemming and hawing, and I'm like, you know what I think we should do is we should like shoot for the moon. Like we should have some confidence. We should like ask a celebrity.
Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah. Because she likes One Piece.
And I'm like, oh no, Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be on the press tour for Halloween Ends. You know who's just as big to us is the Ito Headman from Twitter. Because I swear to God, pound for pound, there's no better follow that you can make in terms of increasing the value of your day-to-day life than just like for real. Like, you posted just recently the manga where it's Jurassic Park but nothing bad happens.
Dinosaur Sanctuary, yeah.
Like, I would never have fucking found that out. No one else is talking about this. It's like when I'm online and I'm like, the world really is a dried up husk and no joy is left in it. And there's nothing left for me to experience. I see Ito Headman has posted something. Oh shit, that looks dope, and I feel joy again.
Well, that is an extremely flattering introduction, but also I think you're kind of getting right into the way I've tried to carry myself online for the last few years, at least, which is just talking about whatever I happen to be into at that moment, whatever is getting me through the day despite the world outside being terrifying sometimes, or all the time, really.
Oh yeah, always. It's
so yeah, I tend to just post whatever I grabbed that day that just kept me going for the minute. And sometimes that's manga, and sometimes that's a cool bird I saw, and sometimes that's the JRPG I'm grinding right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
The bird and bug and fungus posts, I gotta tell you, like, this is what, it's like the famous fucking Miyazaki quote where he's like, I don't want anime fans working on my anime, and or like Nintendo being like, I want people outside of the video game industry to fucking design Breath of the Wild. It's because like as Joe says, like most people who talk about manga and anime are just like, here are the top 10 underage breasts I enjoy, and it's just like, oh god damn it, go to hell. But like, you're like a human being, which it's very rare that human beings read manga. It's usually weird creeps.
Well, I wanna present myself as humanly as possible while still maintaining a certain degree of anonymity. So trying to bridge that gap is a very big part of it, and I think this is something that made me gravitate toward listening to your show a little bit, which is that Anime Sickos is kind of a declaration of war against content brain. And
yes, that is. Oh man, we need to hire. Like, I never would have thought of that in a million years, and that sounds so smart.
Yeah, that's a pull quote
for sure.
And content brain is something that like I have had to kind of kill in my own heart and deal with internally. And the farther I've gotten away from it, the happier I've been being online and interacting with people. So yeah, I think that's a really good starting point for us to really get going on this conversation.
Your other skill, though, and this is a skill, like it's very much a real desirable skill, is that you seem to use Twitter and you don't become a hateful monster. Like, I've never seen you hatefully reply to anything. That's basically what I want to do all the time.
Yeah, I would log on Twitter and I see the freaks, I see the right-wing people being like, I would love to kill, and I'm just like, oh my god. I hate, and as I've mentioned on the episodes, or on episodes in the past, that like I will like falter and I will become the hate replier, and I know it's stupid, but I can't stop myself. How do you, again, in this way you are like Confucius to me. How do you stop yourself? In what way does your great wisdom come to be?
Because you're not a teetotaler, you still post. Like, you're not completely...
Yeah, I don't abstain.
Yeah.
And
not a straight edge.
And trust me, I still see the really awful shit people post sometimes. You know, I feel that anger in me sometimes, but I avoid the devil in my head that tells me I need to have a take on it right now. Or at least a very public take.
So that devil controls everything I do.
Yeah, that devil, when he tells me what to do, I go, eek, scary, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And do it.
I'm his Gundam.
What is your secret? Because like it's so tempting and it's so easy. They give us all the tools.
Okay, so this one might be a little involved. There's multiple strategies at work here. One is that my mute list is very long.
See, I've never muted anything because it's like I don't know where to start.
So I don't hit the block except for in extreme cases because for whatever reason, like, this website has trained people to take that as kind of a trophy.
Yes, you want the screenshot.
There's a post that I love that is like, always mute, never block, because they can screenshot blocks, never give your enemy content.
Yeah, no, I think a long time ago I had said something like, you know, like, that I utilize mute because it's more appealing to me just to think that someone's screaming into a void until they stop.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, as long as you're not harassing other people in my mentions, go ahead. You can just yell at the blank wall of silence that is me. Welcome to my perfect kingdom of silence.
You just put a phone booth around them and close the door as they continue to yell.
Yeah, you know, maybe that's therapeutic for them. I mean, it's fine by me, like, as long as you're not being cruel to other people in my mentions.
Yo, you know that Joe, that image you just did gave me a horrific flashback of the mission from GTA San Andreas, where there's like some guy who you have to get in a porta potty, then you use a big construction equipment to push the porta potty into a hole, and then you fill it with cement, which, like, in a game where you kill conservatively 10,000 people without a thought, that, like, gave me nightmares as an adult. Sorry to get us off track, but I was just struck by it's Halloween time, and I was struck by one of the most horrific images I've seen in any media.
You're right, Tom. I can't think of a worse way to die.
Anyway, what were we talking about? You were talking about how you got a big ass mute list. That's okay. Joe said he doesn't know where to start. I think because of like, what do I start muting? I don't know where to start because I don't remember how to access the mute list on Twitter's UI.
You just go, there's little dots by everybody's name or their picture where you can just click that and choose to mute them.
You think I'm going to click dots? That's confusing.
Although
No.
I will say, anytime I have mentioned muting something, I always get like really anxious texts from other people who also suffer from anxiety in the way that I do. And honestly, if you're the kind of person who cares that much about it, it probably isn't you.
Yes.
There's a lot of, far more sociopathic behavior or grifting or other things. Now, this is a little tougher for you all, though, to utilize the mute list because, I mean, knowing and recognizing these kinds of patterns of behavior is part of the show. I mean, it's also the show is one of the places I go to learn about all the stuff I refuse to read for the rest of the week.
We have to play in the sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at our fucking numbers, and the facts don't lie, folks. We gotta read posts. Those are the ones people go gaga for. It does. I mean, there's a little bit of balm in knowing that when I see a really dumb post, that I'm like, well, at least I'll be able to roast this later. But the thing is, a lot of like really evil, like capital E evil, like the red man who we hate did it himself. Mm-hmm. Yes. Like the really evil posts are not funny or even noteworthy because like we know exactly what the evil is going to be. The evil is going to be, I would like to visit pain and death upon those unlike myself. And I see that all the time, and I just like, my brain is just like, yo, you should tell them to kill themselves. And I'm like, no, I won't. But wouldn't it be nice if they did? And I'm just like, and the thing, like, the mute list is a great idea, but there's a never-ending supply of new blood monsters.
And this is true. So, like, this is true. It is unavoidable. As massive as my mute list has become of like people who I just find extremely petty and cruel, I still see some new person getting quote tweeted every single day. Like, I cannot avoid the main character. And Twitter also has a really bad habit of, even if you have muted somebody and multiple people you follow are quoting them, you're still going to see that they quoted somebody. And maybe the temptation is to click it and still see the awful thing seeping through. Another thing I try to do is just like my follow list are largely people whose ideas I actually want to see. Or who I want to check in on. They're friends.
No hate following.
Yeah, I do not hate follow. I cannot stand it. What I tend to follow is the kind of stuff I like to post. So, I follow people who draw, and I follow people who take photographs of animals in parts of the world I can't access. And, and then I bury everything under retweets because, like, I just find a bunch of stuff I like, and I just start plucking away. I just hit that RT button and feel just as fulfilled. So
God,
that's how I feel about the Gumby account.
Yes. Oh my God, that's a beautiful account.
It just shows screens of Gumby. My very dumb thing is that whenever there's a picture,
every character is Gumby.
Yeah, just like Gumby looks really weird here.
Like, why is Gumby shaped like a horse? Why is there two Gumbys and one's a horse?
Yeah, this is a very unflattering angle on Gumby.
His natural green really doesn't come out in this light.
I love when the Gumby account finds like weird transitional frames of like someone mid blink or something where it just looks really grotesque.
There was some episode where it must have been like real people looking at Gumby. So like the screen was just like an actual human woman like by a tree.
A human person interacting with stop motion creatures is one of the most like harrowing and nightmarish possible visual images, which is why it's so awesome when it happens in Mad God, a movie that's intended to make you feel
very good
like
movie.
You're gonna throw up and die. But Gumby, I don't know about that. I don't know about Gumby. Talking to people, he doesn't. He's a little gummy man.
And back on the other thing of just how do you exist without going into like angry posting and. And for me, like, and I try to get rid of content brain, but for me, like, I also recognize that, like, a lot of the people who you can interact with in that way are, either they're grifters or they have, like, they want to be the main character for the day, or they have,
right.
I just, like, I know that if I quote tweet something I disagree with, I'm still spreading that around to a lot of other people. So I try to avoid that. And like, I even have a few hard and fast rules I like to work with, which is like, if I'm quote tweeting somebody with a much smaller following than me, it has to be something I either agree with or can build on in a positive way. I just don't like, I don't even like using that for negativity because I don't want anybody dogpiling anything in my name, especially over like a petty
retweet
grievance.
function is so funny because like what else is gonna happen other than like everybody dogpile this person?
Oh,
it's like I say, they give us all the tools.
Yes, well, no, and honestly, and this can really get into my philosophy of posting too, is that the longer I've been online, the more I've realized that, and this also goes back into like the past, because before the internet was so fragmented, and I know this is something that you all have discussed, but like there were places you could go where everybody could kind of embarrass themselves in separate pockets.
Yes.
With at least a more understanding community of some sort. And now we're on the uni website. It's just the single website that everything is on, including screenshots of the other two websites.
Yes. You used to be able to experience like forum disgrace in relative isolation.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone else in the universe other than the users of the Golden Sun fan forum I was on saw the shit I wrote for the Golden Sun fan forum, I would I would jump into the sea. But I was able to write my Golden Sun fan works and relative peace. Other weird children enjoyed them as much as could be done, and I moved on because that was something I could do.
And that should be something that every young person gets a chance to do. I like that's another reason where like I don't like going after I honestly don't like when other people do it either. Is just like going after like 16-year-olds with like 30 followers for a post. Like it's just leave them where you found them. It's just, let them embarrass themselves, let them, like, burn that part of their past someday, and, and then if they're still doing it at, like, 30, then, whatever, but, yeah, I don't know, it's just...
The positive framing, and I don't do this all the time, I have to actively work towards this, is just, like, is this a good use of my limited energy?
Yes! Yes, and and I know jobs are one of the pillars of misery you talk about, and I people make the mistake in thinking that I work in anime and manga, which could not be the furthest thing from the truth.
That's so cool. That's so badass. Another instance in which your enthusiast nature is a real human trait that makes it so pleasant to bear witness to, rather than, again, content brain, where it's just like, Minovsky is making more ads for Viz, his employer. No, not in the case.
Yeah, there's a handful of times that someone like Viz has like reached out to me and said like, hey, we'd like to hire you to write a freelance piece of this thing you already like anyway. And
God,
it's like,
I wish that were me.
It's like, okay, but again, that has not been that many times, and like, and also people just assume that I get like free stuff, and that almost never happens either. So it's just, yeah. I think also not being beholden to the industry in any way just kind of lets you do what you want.
That was my next point, which is if you love something like manga and you work in that same industry, it's that same problem where it's like, I will never be truly honest because I might jeopardize career prospects.
Yeah, when I did the episode where I talked shit on Keaton Patty, I was like really nervous because I'm like, the chances I know someone or I'm tangentially connected to someone who knows Keaton Patty in real life and is their friend is like 50%. He might hear about it.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm gonna be a hater. That's another thing. Like, you talk about this positive headspace. For like, when I'm online, what's the point of spreading hate? And it's like, well, as you say that, I'm like, wow, so true, so wise. But the little devil in my head is like, hate is fucking fun. It's thrilling.
Well,
I love hating. Like, just today, I retweeted some idiot's bad review of a book and was like, what a dumbass. And like, I got such a zing from it.
well, and I don't want to make it sound like I have like a very disciplined approach either, because I think part of it for me too is a self-preservation instinct, because as I said earlier too,
Yes.
I am someone who, has dealt my entire life with a severe anxiety disorder, which I'm medicated for, which I'm in therapy for, and so thinking about the internet in this way too has kind of helped me survive my own just being on there. It's not fear of like, what will other people do to me or how will I be treated? It's just like, when I am not online, when I'm not on Twitter, I don't want anything in the back of my head or a gut feeling that I need to check Twitter to make sure I didn't fuck something up or talk back.
This is gospel.
That used to eat away at me, and so finding my way away from that, like, it is so ideal to me if I can log off and not think about the app at all until I log back on.
Yeah, like, one thing I've done now is, like, if I go to post something and I'm like, am I about to do something? Am I going to be, like, compelled to then check the response to the thing I post immediately? Then just post it after. Just wait.
Yeah. Yeah, this is also a problem with, like, trying to live tweet stuff. Yeah, it's just like, something that hits me a lot is, like, I'll say that sometimes, like, I'm starting a game or something, I'll post it, and then people will just tell me the ending of the game. And so I have to go, like, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about it very vaguely, and, just...
This is something that I deeply fucking vibe with. The anti-live tweet, because I think live tweeting is... It's not always, but it is very often a symptom of content brain. And I just hate doing it, not because I'm like, oh, I'll get spoiled, because I don't care about spoilers. I will often, when I'm watching something and interested in it, look up how it ends, because I'm like, I'd like to, like, where is this going? I'm like, oh, it's going there. Interesting. And then I'll keep watching, and my enjoyment is not diminished at all. In fact, it is increased. Anyway, that's not the point. The point being, and this is also why I will never stream. When I'm reading a manga, or watching a show, or playing a game, that is for me. It is not for you, public.
Freeloaders.
Like, yeah. you ingrates, parasites. You don't get any goodies from me reading the book. I'm reading the book. I'm doing this because I like it, not for you. Maybe I'll write a review in the Anime Sickos newsletter later if I have something to say. But if all I have to say was, I enjoyed the time I spent doing that, then guess what? You'll never know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I will say, I started as a live tweeter. Like, I used to have threads and stuff, and I found that so time-consuming in a way that I didn't... Like, it was taking away from the time I was actually enjoying the thing, which I think a lot of hobbies as content can do.
Yup.
And... this also gets into exactly what you were saying there, gets into another a policy of mine, which is, a few years back, I was just like, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about stuff I don't like. Like, I'm not like, if I don't like a comic anymore, or I don't like a movie, you're never even going to hear about it. I'm not even going to mention it, like, in passing. It's just going to be like, I want to go on and I want to talk about these handful of things I like. I don't want to get into arguments with friends or strangers. Like, that is not the enjoyment of the thing for me. So if I just pick out whatever little weirdo thing I wanted to read today and post a panel from it, and then somebody else reads that book I think is interesting, that, to me, that kind of buries the thing I don't like. Like I didn't, just like I don't want to spread an annoying person. I don't want to spread something I don't, a piece of art that just doesn't do anything for me. Although the one thing I will let myself get angry about is the business side of art. So I will post negatively about that.
The torture side of art? There ain't no business.
Like all the consolidation and streaming services making culture go away.
Yes. Yes.
And voice actors that add critical personality and soul to a movie, game, or whatnot.
To billion-dollar properties, yeah.
Yeah, they have to pay the company. They get paid negative money. They also get sent to jail. Didn't like the fucking Jujutsu Kaisen Zero voice cast get paid like $100? Like some
was
like
less
eye-popping number.
Less than 1,000 for the ones that came out and said something. Yeah.
iTunes gift cards.
Well, thank you. And I do want to talk about this before we move on to something else real quick, because I will say, and I've mentioned this a little bit online, but I've never actually talked about this out loud to anybody that's not like somebody who knows me. But a few years ago, and this is one of the things that really put a stake into my thinking about my time as content. I was approached by a fairly large marketing company that wanted to see if they could figure out why I got engagement and and what was my thinking and what was my philosophy. And so I was flown out for a job interview and I explained to them, like, I'm not a marketing person. I've never done marketing. I don't have a degree in this. I don't really think about it. I just kind of post what I enjoy. And I got flown to the West Coast to have, a gauntlet interview with about 7 different people over the course of 5 hours.
Jesus Christ, this is scary. I'm getting upset.
And
like my heart's beating faster.
And I got so many questions like, have you ever run experiments on your followers to see how they'll emotionally engage? Have you done,
like shocking them,
yes,
exposing them to poison.
Yes. I mean, and I'm not going to name names and like the job, the funny thing is too, like at that time, like I had a car that didn't work. I was, my life had fallen apart really badly. And I was like, okay, maybe I make a jump into something else. And then you go through all this and they tell you, and then I asked like, okay, well, what's the pay rate? And it was like technically more than I was making here at the time, but it was like below livable wage in that big city. So my living would have been a lot worse. And also just, I don't know, I got like weirdly insulting comments from the panel while I was there, despite me being very clear about who I was and, how I did things. And I'd get things like, you don't seem to have a personality. So why do people respond to you the way you do? And like,
Jesus.
Yeah, so
they're just like, how are you able to get so much blood and yet go out in the sun? We can't go out in the sun. What's wrong with you? Are you not one of us? Do you not live the dance of blood of the night? I'm like, no, I don't.
And it wasn't even to promote manga or anything. Like it was just like and I'm just thinking like, okay, maybe this is, but like that experience and leaving that experience and going back home, like, I just kind of felt like, okay, this is the logical end point of, like, trying to make this a career path. And I don't want anything to do with it. So I put my life back together back at home, and I'm also making more money than they would have paid me there now, just doing something that's not related to that field at all.
This is the kind of wise shit that you need special golden glasses to decode from a tablet, usually. And you're just getting it for free, listener. My God. Yo, I'm going to be serious with you folks. Let me give you a peek behind the curtain. Usually the first segment is 15 minutes, 25 minutes at most. I have a timer going so that when we hit those benchmarks, I go like, guys, should we wrap up? I forgot to check, and it's been 33 minutes. This has been wonderful. We haven't asked the big question. We haven't had a chance. I think it's time to do it so that we don't forget it. Joe, would you like to ask the big question?
I'd be honored. Treasured guest, are you an anime sicko?
Yes.
That was really fast, yes. I really like that. Everyone else should have responded that quickly.
I am a sicko in many areas, but anime is one of the influential ones that has stuck for the better, mostly. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. Love it. I figure as much.
Be fun if you said no, I guess.
I think you had said like it was a foregone conclusion before we started recording that I would say yes, and I didn't say anything then.
I mean, if you had said no, I would have been like, listen, motherfucker. Like, what do you think you're, like, where do you think you're get off? Are you fucking trying to play us? Are you trying to make us look like fools?
I will say that I read way more manga than I watch anime, as far as
I am
manga
the same
goes.
way.
But yeah, well, again, this is another reason I listen to you all. You have said as much, and like, hey, if somebody is listening to this show because I'm on it, this is your first episode. I want to encourage you to go back one episode and listen to the Diet Arc episode, where, for example, I think that they perfectly unpack the appeal of Kyu Hayashida's manga.
We love Zidar.
It's gross. It's deadly. It's also stupid.
So dumb. So dumb.
And
Joe,
it's something you can find nowhere else. No one else is going to make a comic like that ever.
It's full of mummies. It's full of skeletons. It's full of murder. And you're like, this is probably dark and serious. No. It's goofy as hell. I love it. So previously on Anime Sickos, we discussed how we've been feeling like the show isn't as fresh as it used to be. And part of that is we hadn't introduced a new signature segment in a while. We have some signature segments, stuff that recurs, that is like part of the identity of Anime Sickos. You know, the kind of USPs you can't get anywhere else, you know? And yeah, we had some consultants and we did some brainstorming trying to figure out a new one. Unfortunately, our initial idea didn't work. But Joe, were we discouraged? Did we stop there?
I mean, I'm always discouraged. I've never been encouraged, but no, we didn't stop.
Yeah, we said to ourselves, you know, one failure is not going to put us down. We're going to actually redouble our efforts, try even harder. Clearly,
3
what
failures
happened,
would, though, for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. I think that's that saying.
You would never see us again.
But I thought to myself, you know what? I think we might have spared some expenses in our initial thought process to come up with our new signature segment. You know, we hired consultants, but we didn't hire like the consultants.
The big dogs.
Yeah, we got some McKinsey guys. They came by, they gave us a couple PowerPoints, a couple of white papers about, you know, what would work for us, what might, you know, really be a big hit, something with legs, you know, something that's not going to run out of content, something that's not going to feel samey or boring after 2 or 3 iterations, something that really speaks to us as creators, as creatives, and as a brand.
We got our hands on a quantum computer. We used a very advanced data modeling situation. I didn't really know what the computers were doing, but it got very hot.
They told us that what it was doing was taking, you know, hundreds of possible segments and using AI algorithms to mimic our sort of personas as podcast hosts and making them run the segments hundreds of times, seeing which one would continue to be interesting after the 100th run. And, you know, honestly, it was harrowing to see because there's so many ones that seemed like they would really kick ass, you know, would falter after 20 iterations. Others were like, this is going strong. This is never going to be bad. It's still as good as ever. But like the 51st iteration would just go over a cliff and it would crash and we'd be like, this fucking sucks. Finally, though, it took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money. But we have our new signature segment that is going to light the podcast world on fire. I'm so honored that we would have our guest Minovsky with us to help inaugurate this, because I mean, it felt like it was too momentous an occasion to be just me and Joe. Like this is gonna be like a celebration for the whole world. We wanted someone who we really admired to be here to bear witness to what's honestly a new era. I just want to say I'm going to call it Act 2 of Anime Sickos. Act 1 over. You know, what you thought was the show, that's no more. Act 2 begins now. Because from now on, when you think of Anime Sickos, you're going to think of our signature new segment, Queen Watch.
Yeah.
Wait.
We're going to check on, like, if the queen's been watching anime lately.
Yeah. If she's been posting about anime, so maybe she read some manga.
Hold on.
She probably plays some games on her phone.
Wait. Do you guys record on like a 2-month delay? Like, is this going to come? Was this meant for September? It's going to come out in November? Like, what are we doing here?
Oh, no, it's October 15th.
Yeah, we kind of record like 1 or 2 weeks in advance at most.
Okay, well,
Like this is Saturday. This is coming out Wednesday, dude.
yeah, no, but you know she's dead, right?
No.
No.
Yeah.
The Queen.
Yes,
We're the England one, right?
the England one. Yeah.
No, I'm looking it up.
I would have heard about this.
You're gonna look like a real dumbass when I open up her Wikipedia article. Oh my god! Well, this is devastating.
Yeah, I didn't want to have to be the one to tell you. I knew how important Her Majesty was to you.
Oh, we don't.
Oh, yeah, we don't like her. It wasn't going to be a healthy obsession, for sure.
I mean, it didn't seem like, up your street or anything to talk about the royals in this way, but but for the sake of the bit, I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry. Also, you've done this one before.
No,
Done
we
what?
haven't.
No,
Yeah, what before?
this bit.
What bit? This is serious. This is our careers, dude.
Okay.
What did we do before?
You introduced Queen Watch.
No, we didn't.
I don't think that's true.
I would have remembered if we'd done that. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. 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 One thing that you post a lot of is horror guys, creeps and scary spooks.
Movie monsters.
Yeah. Speak to me on this.
Yeah, I really like creeps. No. Yeah, I don't. As far back as I can remember, I've just always loved monsters of any kind. I love movie monsters. I love animals that most people think are ugly. I like kaiju movies, and I like the weird little guys in JRPGs that you have to fight in dungeons. I like.
Ooh.
Creature design is such a real skill.
Oh yeah. No, it's an immense talent, and it is, it's something people have been doing for as long as stories have been told. Like all the classic stories, the pre-writing ones anyway. The oral tradition stories all have all these monsters, and that's still persisting. And to this day, when it reached its pinnacle, when Akira Toriyama drew his first slime.
Yeah, that guy is so pleasant, that slime. I know there was a limited edition slime controller for PS2. I still think about that thing.
So good. I was at some Kachiwachi store for nerds, and they had a plush king slime that was so fluffy and soft, and the only thing that made me not buy it was that it was like $80. But I was just like, this is what plush was invented for. Yeah. This big chubby guy, he's so happy. He's got a crown. I love the Dragon Quest that's the thing about JRPG monsters in particular, is that the scrub monsters that you just fight in random battles, they might as well not exist. They're never going to be challenging in anything other than an attrition sense. Can you battle 2,000 of these and not run out of MP? So in a gameplay sense, they may as well not even exist. It may as well just be you lose MP and HP with every step. And you're how many steps can you take? But you slap a pretty little picture on top of that, I'll play that game for 100 hours.
Yeah, you give it an appealing little animation or make it quirky enough to remember. And the slimes achieve that. I mean, if you look at the Dragon Quest art book, they have Toriyama's first slime sketch, and he nails it in the first try. And it's what could be more appealing than the slime? Nothing. Experts have tried for decades. They have not succeeded.
So before we started recording, we were talking about monsters a little bit, and you said something that I agreed with that I also did not realize I thought. which was, correct me if I'm wrong here, but basically the lore makes things less scary. Like, the more lore a monster has, the less scary it is.
That's correct. Yeah. The more you know about a monster, the less frightening it's going to be. That is usually why the first, like if you go to a horror movie, the first time you've seen a monster, the first movie, that's the scary one. Everybody always goes, that's one of the best ones. And then there are diminishing returns in the sequels, or, they have to find like a new hook or a new way to make it work. And I think that a big part of that is just, of course, old hat to say that fear of the unknown is the source of horror, but it's true. The less you know about a creature, the less you know about... this is why ghost fiction still works so much, because as Kaimon in Dorohedoro said, zombies are just hungry, so I'm not scared of them. But ghosts, I don't know what they're doing, so they scare me.
What's their deal? What do they want?
I can't even see them. So yeah, when people talk about like actually creepy horror, it's usually like a movie or like where you barely ever see the creature at all. You just get vibes and atmosphere and like, really beautiful shots of crumbling old houses that a creature might be around the corner of or just outside a frame. And if you see it, it's just a suggestion of it or something. But
do you I'm sure you know of this. I can't remember the name. Hopefully you do. That movie, that Japanese horror movie, where there's the extremely famous shot of the ghost is just walking slowly down a hallway, and it's walking in the fucked uppedest way.
That's actually that's a Pulse by Kiyoshi Kurosawa.
I knew you would know it.
He's one of my favorite directors. I love Kiyoshi Kurosawa. If you get the chance, watch Pulse, watch Cure. And then he's got like dozens of others that are, just as good, but I think those are two of his best. And yeah, it's just, he is the master of just suggestion. He won't and he films all of his stuff in crumbling buildings in Japan. Like he drives around and he finds actually condemned buildings and he knows they're about to be demolished, and he'll take some actors and a film crew in there and just film that space. And like, that is his way of preserving the bones of a place that doesn't exist anymore. And it gives it an even creepier feeling for that, but he doesn't bother really explaining to you why the monsters and ghosts and things are doing what they do. Like, you might get a little half explanation, or you'll see a glimpse of something that'll suggest what this is all about, but he's never going to come out right and tell you. And I think that's the beauty of it. But, and this gets into everything else we're talking about. Like, the reason I don't think lore is scary is also, lore is where you start seeing the interference of things that aren't necessarily the creativity of the monster itself. Like, lore is... Okay, I think I have two good examples. I've known a couple people who have pitched horror ideas to Hollywood before. And in those first meetings, they like your idea, they like your script, but the first question is, what's the lore? What's the backstory? What is the way that we can keep exploiting this character with or without you and franchise it? What is
lore is IP?
Lore is IP, but also, on the other hand, the internet introduces interesting wrinkles that didn't really exist before this. Like, because I think of someone like Trevor Henderson, Slimy Swamp Ghost. He invents something like Siren Head, and then gives you very little information. Like, his whole thing is just he draws a monster into a photograph, and he writes like maybe 2 sentences about it, and that's all he really wants to write about it. But once his stuff started popping off, there were like fan wikis for him of people making up their own lore, and there are YouTubers and other people generating content. And so the younger fans want to know, what's the lore? What's the story here? And if you don't give it to them, they're just going to make it themselves, and that's going to become the official story. And
like the whole SCP wiki, you could make an argument that is 100% lore. Because it's all just
it's the spooky
articles.
Lore website.
Yeah.
However, I think the genius move that is the smartest way to write an SCP article about a special monster you thought up. The genius move in the arsenal of the SCP style guide is that, because this is technically highly classified government documentation, you can redact parts.
Oh, that's so fun.
That's the best shit when it's like, you better be sure never to redact, and there's like a paragraph missing. It's like, if you do that, oh fuck, you're gonna be shocked because then this'll happen. Here it is, and it's like, that's redacted too, and I'm like, what could it be? And like, that's it. When you know you are writing an SCP article, which is again 100% lore, that is the withholding some is when you get that sort of brain chemical.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a thing too where if you talk to like horror fans my age or older, there's all this veneration of like, oh, I remember going to the video store and seeing on the shelf all the pictures of all the boxes, and like, you know, as much.
No, sorry to interrupt, but that's the same as people being like, I used to drink from the hose.
Well, and you know, and I'm just as guilty of telling that story, and you know, like, and going like, I do have a profound nostalgia for that, you know, like, but at the same time, like almost every time, the box art is scarier than the movie's ever going to be because your head has filled in the gaps. So the best horror stuff, movies, books, whatever, it just lets you imagine most of it. It lets your brain fill in the gap because whatever you've got in your head is scarier than whatever anybody's going to film. And that varies from person to person. And now that's not to say that like lore cannot work for monsters. Monsters can have really interesting lore, but they're going to become familiar friends. They're going to become like characters you're excited to see and buy merch of. And of course, that's the end point of all of this stuff usually. Like everybody knows what Godzilla's deal is. I can, you know, and I love Godzilla. I love Gamera. You know, I will tell people all the time that like the Child's Play movies are the most consistent slasher series. I know every little thing about Chucky, whatever, but like, you know, they don't scare me like they used to. You know, it's just
they're mascots.
Yeah, they're mascots. They're fun to see. It's the gimme the slop concept you all talk about often, where it's like, you know what? No, I know Freddy's gonna show up. He's gonna make a joke. He's gonna call somebody bitch, and then he's gonna kill them in a cool dream way. He doesn't scare me. Not like he did the first time I saw that first movie when I was a kid.
Because he's been explained over countless movies at this point.
Exactly.
He's not fresh.
Yeah, you can go in a wiki and go to the powers and abilities tab and be like, these are all the things Freddy can do. Good, I will simply counter all of them and become safe.
Well, I mean, and that's an entire field of horror content now. Like, there are all these YouTubers. It's like, how to beat monster from It Follows. And it's like, yeah, well, if
that's content brain, that's content brain.
It's like, yeah, no, if you are in the scenario and you know all of the rules that have been explained to you in the movie, then yes, you would survive the scenario. But you know, it's just like people go like, you know, why do these characters make bad decisions? If they make good decisions, there's no movie, there's no story. Like they have to do stupid stuff so you see a cool scene.
That's one of Tom's hobby horses whenever someone's like, why didn't they just solve all their problems? I would have done that.
It's a similar type of thing. I was talking about this earlier with my wife, which is why it's on my mind. It's the same sort of brain pathology as the car-brained insane logic of like, it's like, I don't actually need to come to a complete stop at stop signs. And it's not unsafe for me because I drive really carefully. Like the idea that like, the people who get into accidents all opted in. They're all like, today I'm not going to be careful and I'm going to fucking just go nuts. I'm probably going to crash. I don't care. It's like, no. Like, you can't just like start your day being like, I will do everything correctly today. And then at the end of the day being like, God, I was so right to have decided that at the beginning. Oh, to go back to Godzilla and lore not being scary and the lack of it being really scary. The vaunted, correctly so, Anno movie, Shin Godzilla. That's fucking scary. Because Godzilla, I've seen a few of the movies. I haven't seen a ton, but I sort of get Godzilla as a mascot. There's a different character in Shin Godzilla. When Godzilla first shows up, it looks very wrong. Because it's in, like, baby form, and the shape of it is not right. And the way it walks is very bad. And it's jiggling, and I'm like, Godzilla doesn't jiggle. What is this thing? And then Godzilla goes on to do and look like some very nightmarish things, and no one ever really learns why.
And by the end, there is a shot that makes you wonder what's even happening there, and the movie does not bother to tell you. It's just like, you know what? Just you figure it out. You. So
he was like a tadpole at that point.
Yeah. Well, and like there's other things protruding off of the body that suggest some other mutation that we never see. complete itself at the end of the movie. But again, like what you're saying is,
I'm so invested now because like you just gave me a question and not enough details, and now my brain's just going nuts. It's just like, what does Godzilla evolve into? What is he? Does he need a moonstone? What's happening?
But to make it scary again, just like you're saying, they had to like take the familiar, but then change the things that you thought you knew. So you can't walk in and go like, he's gonna work like every other time. Nope, this is something else completely different. But it's also in a world where like seemingly most of those other movies never happened.
Yeah, that's how it's like I don't know. I haven't seen any of the Halloween movies. That's just a big blind spot for me.
You watched the first one, maybe the third if you want to see something really silly and weird, but you don't have to watch the rest.
But just like, especially now that like Jamie Lee Curtis is doing all these press tours for the new round, and it's like, yes, I'm back again in Halloween City or wherever it takes place, and it's just like, how am I like? Sir, at some point, even the character in the fiction has to agree that it is silly that I am once again being menaced by Michael Myers. Like, this is getting comical. Like, really?
A guy who's supposed to just be a guy.
Austin Powers is back again to vex me greatly.
Well, I mean, and, even going back to the example I gave earlier of Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, like, when they finally bring Wes Craven back into the series, which is very close to the end of the series, the only way he could think to make it scary again was like, well, Freddy can cross over into our world, and it's not quite the Freddy that you knew, and the movies are metafiction now, and there's only so many ways you can do lore and keep it going. But on the other hand, like, I love something like Monster Hunter, where Capcom's team will come up with, like, extremely weird biological / horror / fantasy reasons for why these creatures do magic, and it's like, he's got a special gill that processes the air and turns it into dragon energy, and that's why he's a jet.
They do National Geographic stuff on all the monsters. It's very compelling.
Yeah, and I'm not scared of those monsters, but I'm really interested in them. So like, lore can work, but it's just not in a way that's going to frighten you.
I love the Monster Hunter lore because, again, they do all of the things that the lore says they do. Like, this monster is capable of doing this. Like, the Gore Magala is blind, but has feelers that give it that shoot out frenzy particles, and the feelers allow it to see vibrations in the air. And like, it do be doing that. It does have feelers that come out, and it does shoot out frenzy particles.
And you see its spores make everything else sick and angry, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the team that made Resident Evil.
Yeah. What I love is, and this is again a content brain thing, when people will read like Pokedex entries, like whoa, guys, check it out. This Pokemon's flames are so strong that it can melt steel beams. Wow. And I'm like no, it's like folks, like, it's a Pokemon. It's just not a character. It's
Fire Blast has 120 tag.
Yeah, this ghost type Pokemon, it steals children from their beds. It steals them and takes them to the ghost realm. I'm like, no, it doesn't. You can catch it with a Pokeball.
I would like to see it. Show me that happen in a game.
It's like you say, it's very scary. However, I encountered it in the grass and dealt with it easily. It's like, so how bad could it be?
But I mean, but then this is also how you end up with like haunted game cartridge stories. People like, the Lavender Town music has driven many children to their death.
Oh, that was such a common, I guess, creepypasta, right?
Yep.
The story is that the creepy ghost town music like made a kid kill his family in a ghost rage. Just some absolutely deranged slop. I mean, it's horror slop.
And you bought the copy of the game from like a creepy store that was like a haunted retro game store that wasn't there when you went to return the game or something. And now that kid's soul resides in there, and I should never have played his save file. I wish I hadn't. That's the bit that his soul resides in.
I wish you can't do that these days, because it's just like, I got a digital download. That was like, oh, that's boring.
If you're in the business of convincing kids that Sonic is in Smash Brothers, these are hard times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like EGM telling you that you could unlock Shenlong in Street Fighter 2. Like, we're way past that.
You know what video game fake truth that I remember and think about more than I should? The idea that in the original Pokemon, you could get Mew if you pushed a truck.
And you had to press the button like hundreds of times or something.
Yeah. Obviously, I did that. It didn't work out.
That's the best kind of grift, which is like you have to do an extremely complex and very long series of inputs and if you get any one of them wrong, it won't work because it's unfalsifiable.
That's right.
Like, it's impossible to do that many inputs and be confident that you've done it. You're just like, must have pressed it 99 times instead of 100 and I lost count. Well, time to start over.
I mean, and to that point too, like, I do hope that, even with the internet existing as it does, that some level of like schoolyard rumor still exists. Like, I don't want to live in a world where like a kid on like a playground doesn't tell other kids like, no, his name is Broly and his power is infinite and you can't watch this yet.
Yeah, the Nintendo uncle must live on.
Yes.
Or it will be necessary to invent him.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the forever thirst for the Switch Pro is sort of the Nintendo uncle thing.
Oh.
I've seen so many like leak Switch Pro to be announced on next Direct, and I'm like, no, it won't.
But
and
and I guess that's the new version of that. It's not a kid on the playground. It's like this guy who guessed one thing right one time, and now he has to get 3 things wrong and be exiled forever as a leaker. There's many such guy.
Yeah.
We're the anime Sickos, and we're here to say anime is bad in a war crime way.
I want to talk about some brain stuff for a little bit. It's been known that I have a brain, and it vexes me constantly. I remember seeing one of your tweets. There was something to the effect of, I'm medicated for anxiety for the first time in my life, and it feels like I have glasses for the first time. And I remember reading that and it resonating because I had a similar experience. And when it happened to me, I just got pissed because it's just like you were doing it fucking wrong like for 30 years.
Oh yeah. No, I completely understand what you mean. And it's almost like a mourning period too of like, I just accepted that this is how my brain is. And like, there's also a part of you that wonders like, like I think about how terrified I felt sometimes, or just like deeply anxious or deeply depressed. And I still get glimpses of those feelings. Like, medication itself is not a cure-all, but it is definitely, it just gave me feelings. And it's like, oh shit, other people don't feel this way all the time. And I didn't have to feel this way all the time. And if I'd had the money, the resources, or the knowledge, or just any kind of push toward that, like I had to wait till I got health insurance, and then I not to go too deep into my personal life, like I had a partner that's really pushed me to change what I can change, and it's been great. But yeah, no, it really does fuck with your sense of self to go like, oh my god, I didn't have to feel like this every day. I didn't have to accept that this is just what life was.
Yeah, like I was doing it hard for, like I wasn't better because of it. It was just harder.
Yeah.
I remember seeing David Cross like 10 years ago. He was doing stand-up and he closed his set with this story about his own mental health thing where he was just like, ever since I was young, I've struggled with mental health stuff. It's always affected me, blah, 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 like really long Shaggy Dog story about all of it. And he's like, and then one day I talked to a doctor and it turns out I had a rock in my shoe. And obviously that's like a glib, goofy joke, but like that might as well be what happened.
Oh yeah.
Like that is basically it.
I think that nails it, really. It's just, yeah, you just have this acceptance of, I don't know, like, I think there's a part of you too, or at least there was a part of me that just, again, didn't realize other people didn't feel this way, or didn't see the world that way.
That's such a funny thing as a kid. You're like, how we all feel like shit all the time? And everyone's like, no.
Yeah.
No, we're going to play dodgeball now.
Yeah, do you know how you seem to forget things all the time, and then you just have the terror that you feel that keeps you up at night that you forgot, but you don't remember what you forgot? Yeah, no, okay. You just did your homework and remembered all the things you're supposed to do? Okay.
Never been horny. Never been horny. Don't tell the paper that I ever got horny.
Let's talk about the famous comics we love. Manga. Black and white, baby. Read it.
Let's do it.
Minovsky, how much physical manga do you own?
You know, I actually had, like, I saw this on the sheet and I started looking around my house. Not as much as you might think anymore. Like I have been trying to trim things down, and I have I have certain rules that I try to figure out as far as like what books I even buy physically anymore. So I do have, I would say I have, so I used to know a lawyer, and he threw out 2 heavy legal bookcases, and that's where most of my comics exist now. So I have them on these 2 heavy legal cases. But then like, you know, and then I have like other kinds of books on other shelves and a couple things in boxes that I'm probably going to donate to used bookstores, because I have found a lot of treasure at used bookstores. And so when I get rid of parts of my collection, I don't tend to put them on eBay or anything. Like if I know somebody who I think would like it, I just make sure that they get it. And if I want to trim it, then like I'll just drop it off at a used bookstore, not announce anything, and just let somebody walk in and find it. Because, yeah, I enjoy that experience, and I feel like that's not an experience you get very much anymore. But as far as how much I have, like, you know, it's mainly, it's books that are, you know, pretty out of print at this point, or, you know, especially favorite series or particular artists that I love. And I try not to buy any comic that's going to be longer than like 20-something volumes. Like, I don't, you know, I have a couple series that have gone beyond that, but not, like, I enjoy reading One Piece, but I'm going to read that digitally because you need a whole wing of your house to own One Piece. And I know people who do. Like, I see their shelf, and this is the One Piece shelf, and it's still, and I might have to add an ancillary shelf because who knows how long that's going to be. You know, so the Jump app exists now. I don't need to do that. You know, I can just read for 2 nights, you know, and also like One Piece isn't going to go anywhere. You're always going to be able to find stuff like that in Dragon Ball at this point, but other things are going to go away.
Yeah, the out of print issue is something that, you know, I'll expose my ignorance here. Before I was a manga getting guy, and like if I were to buy a book, it would be like a book that everyone's heard of, that you can definitely find anywhere. I didn't really understand the gravity of out of print. But when I became a manga getting guy, and I'm like, you know what I'd like to read? Monster by Naoki Urasawa. I'm sure that doing that is so easy because it's a big hit.
Yep.
No, not at all. Yeah, holy shit.
There's definitely some challenges there, and it is worse now than it used to be as far as out of print manga prices go. Like, there is definitely a larger scalper market. There is a larger collector's market just to have the volumes, whether you read them or not. Like, again, this is a content thing I have noticed. There are people who just like to take giant photos of their whole collection, or like videos of them going one by one on the things on their shelf. And like, some of these guys, you'll look at them and go like, oh my God, you bought this $100 volume and it's still shrink wrapped, and it's next to all these other $100 things. They're also still shrink wrapped. And, you know, and I tend to just buy something I know I'm going to read, or I'm going to read more than once, or, but, you know, trying to buy stuff, especially like middle volumes. There's so many times you can go and you're like, okay, well, volume 1 is still there, and volume 19 is still there, but volumes 6, 10, and 13 for some reason are $300 a piece on eBay right now.
Yeah, my wife has most of a shoujo series called Mars that she wants me to read, and I'll eventually get to it.
Mars is really good.
Would you believe that we have all but volume 13, and volume 13 in particular, more like exponentially more so than every other volume, is like impossible to acquire. It's like, how? What? Why this one?
Yeah.
It's not even the last one. It's not even the second to last one. Why?
And my theory on this is just that somebody sees that, like, okay, the print run, for whatever reason, the ones that are online have dipped, and so one person just to go, I have one, and I'm going to set the price, and everybody else is going to go with crazy flea market prices and go, I guess that's what it's worth. And
also, if you buy like every 13th volume you can online, you can basically people are invested.
Yes.
They're like, I've started reading this thing, and then the trick is to dangle an end volume in front of them for $400 or whatever.
You just become Mr. 13. That's your job now.
Yeah. I mean, and that's become a thing for me for a long time. I have been collecting manga since I was a young teenager. So like a lot of the out of print stuff is just stuff I bought when it was still new. And I just held on to, I got to briefly meet Junji Ito one time, and I took him the really messed up copy of Uzumaki that I bought in high school. That was the 2001 like printing of it, and I got a little doodle in it. But like
that's
but
awesome.
that copy's falling apart. Like I didn't get it to like have a pristine copy that I can flip. It's like, no, this is the copy that introduced me to this, and without it, I probably wouldn't even be the same person today. So I'm just going to get that.
You certainly wouldn't be the Ito
No,
headman.
I would certainly not be the Ito headman.
I should explain what that fucking means. Minovsky's avatar is a panel of an Ito short story where a guy gets his head sliced off, I think by a witch.
Yes. He is a fuckboy that cheats on his girlfriend, or tries to cheat on his girlfriend with a witch who chops his head off and then sews it with this magical thing where he has to hold his head from now on with both hands or it will fall off.
Yeah, and hence Ito Headman that's the avatar. Anyway,
it's a really fun story too, because like the witch keeps showing up to like mess with him in very Junji Ito ways. Like she's like trying to jam a cockroach down the neck hole and stuff and all this other stuff. It's great. So yeah, that one's called Red Turtleneck, by the way. It's in one of the short story collections.
Yeah. Pair that with the green ribbon from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and then you got a stew going. That might be from In a Dark, Dark Room, not Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Who cares? You know about
They're
the green
all
ribbon.
good books.
Yeah, they got monsters in them, folks. We were just talking about that.
Also, the other problem you're having with Urasawa stuff is he's one of the few artists that's been fairly notoriously reluctant to put his work out digitally.
Yeah, Tom was telling me as much.
It was like I went to a manga store near me, and I looked up on their shelf, and my jaw dropped, dude, because what I saw was 20th Century Boys Perfect Edition, every volume, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, am I prepared to drop like $300 right now? Because like, oh my god.
What if it all goes away?
Like, what if Mr. 13 comes to town and is like, yoink? Man, I've been hearing on the Anime Sickos Discord, because a bunch of homies are buying Die Dark on our recommendation. Like, apparently, like, of the 4 volumes of Die Dark that have been released in the last, like, year and a half, some of them you can't get now.
So
it already happened.
So let me just sort of issue this, and like, things can change. I could be wrong about this, but I'm gonna let the Anime Sickos homies know. Do not panic. One of the things that's happening right now with manga is that because of COVID-related paper shortages and printing shortages, print runs are not what they were at the moment, and so there is a mass panic even with the largest publishers to try to get enough volumes out the door. So I will sometimes notice that a book will go out of print for 9 months to a year, and then suddenly there's copies again and nobody said anything. It just quietly is back. I noticed this with Urasawa's Pluto, which if you've loved Monster, read Pluto. It's his android murder mystery retelling of an Astro Boy chapter as like a small series. That's really good. But that's been out of print for years. Middle volumes going for hundreds of dollars. I found it in a used bookstore for one time. And now I went into the shop the other day and all 8 volumes are sitting there. And it's like, okay, it's just back. Nobody's going to tell you it's back, but there it is.
I'm pretty sure every collector hobby was basically intensified during COVID, because like during lockdown, I remember looking up stuff out of curiosity, like magic cards and things like that, and everything is way more expensive than it ever was. I started seeing like Super Nintendo games going for just very expensive. And we're not talking about like rare copies of Chrono Trigger. We're like, Shut Up and Jam, the Charles Barkley game, is like $100.
It devastated the retro game market. Like I don't know. Like that took off in way like that and Pokemon cards and stuff took off in ways I don't think anybody could have predicted. Manga's following a similar trend.
I hate this. No one has respect for art. No one has respect for just being a chill guy who likes human expression. They all want to fly you to the West Coast and say, what is your marketing strategy? Which best practices do you use? Do you read Ad Age? And if you just tell them, no, I'm just a human who likes what they enjoy, they say, what's joy? How can we market it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Folks, yuck.
But you know what? There's a lot of good manga out there. There's a lot of good everything out there. I mean, but also talking about games and stuff. Like one of the few games I tend to buy when they're new are JRPGs, because like if you don't, they're in a year you're never gonna find a copy under $100 again. It's really lousy for that. Other kinds of games you'll find for like $5, but JRPGs for whatever reason, different kind of thing.
It's the most collector-y genre.
That's probably true.
God forbid if there was like a pre-order version with like a gunmetal case.
While we're on this manga point, it seems almost pedestrian to ask, but what you reading?
Yes, what are you reading? We assume the best and coolest stuff, right?
Yeah, only a genius would read this.
Not necessarily. So, let me hit you all with so first of all, I have to assume that your listeners are not necessarily people that know my Twitter page. So I am going to throw out some that are probably I have seen people refer to as the starter pack for me, and then I'll throw some deep dive things. So for example, I love Dorohedoro. I love Daidark, Q Hayashida. There are two other series that are very action/food related that I'm really into. I love Delicious in Dungeon, which I think is going to blow up soon because Studio Trigger is making an anime now. But extremely fun series. I think you all have briefly mentioned it at some point.
Yeah. I read it. I read to the point where there was just fan translations, and I'm like, I don't want to read I don't want to read any. I'm gonna wait till it's legit.
Well, it's a fun series. It's a funny series. It's got it is a series about trying to cut costs but still be a dungeon crawling adventurer. And it's drawn by a woman who is very into dungeon crawlers as a thing. She's put personal art out before of here's here's portraits of every character in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and my style and stuff. So she's clearly got a deep love for this.
It has the whole tone of dungeon crawling is the most loving possible roast. Dungeon crawling in the world of Delicious in Dungeon is it's not really exciting or scary. It's just it is working in the mind. It's a job. You just go down there and there's traps. That's why you gotta have a rogue. You know how it is with traps. And the funniest shit in the world is that cause the dungeon is technically another dimension or something like that. It has some magic shit involved in what the dungeon is. When you die, your soul doesn't move on to the afterlife. So when you get killed in the dungeon by a monster, you just sort of get X's over your eyes and lay there, and someone can come and cast Resurrect on you. Your soul's still around, so you just go, whoop, and they're just pay up, please, I resurrected you. And you're this is just the price of doing business in the dungeon. Here you go, sir. And it's I love just that having to come up with that lore is you can imagine she was cackling to herself,
has to be.
writing down hee hee, your soul sticks around, hee hee hee.
When I play Final Fantasy 11, I remember white mages selling raises.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah. That's part of the comic. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a story where they are trying to cut costs. They're okay, where can we afford to not pay something before we go into this dungeon? It's you know what? If we kill every monster and see if we can cook it that we come across, that's how we'll save on food. And one of the lovely things about Delicious Dungeon is it's like there is an overarching plot that pops up, but again it's winding down at this point. It's 11 volumes, so it seems like it's going to end soon. Again, short series, love that, but. Every story is like, oh, they meet a new monster. Here's the fun way they dealt with it, and then at the end, the dwarf, Sinchi the dwarf, will come out with his mithril crockpot, and they'll show you like a fake fantasy recipe for how to prepare this monster.
It's so funny that they do that like cooking manga thing of like, and here's the real recipe you can make too, except it's like dragon meat.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the. Okay, like mandragora dust. It's like, I don't got none of that. You're so silly.
Yeah, that's a really good series. I'm also a big advocate. I've been a big advocate for a long time, and this one actually breaks my rule. Golden Kamui is another really fun one.
It's so good.
It's so good.
The action, it has no business being that compelling action-wise and also that funny. Like, it is funny in a way that isn't like, haha, it's goofy, manga is funny sometimes. Like, it's legitimately laugh out loud funny, and it's so effortless.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the real like incredible funny manga. So like there is sort of like a house style of manga comedy. You'll see in a lot of gag mangas.
Someone says something weird and everybody falls over.
Yeah, but like shit like Golden Kamui and Die Dark, it's like this is a truly deranged comic voice that you do not find anywhere else. This is a comedy style that is so honed and unique. It is like the thousand-fold katana that they made themselves, and like, my God, what a sight to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's a big part of the appeal of like the really good stuff, is that you kind of feel that individualistic thumbprint. Like this, like no one else is gonna make this. This is like a lot, and a lot of the great manga artists, they tend to own at least some aspect of their work. They keep ownership of it. Whereas like, a lot of other things, like your IP just belongs to somebody else now. And like, I mean, I think that's a big part of manga's appeal is like the story just ends when the author ends it. Now, sometimes there's, there's editorial dabbling and things that are stretched out way longer than they should be, but with a lot of these, they're not. And you get that person's unique worldview and sensibility bleeds through on these pages. And that's the stuff I really fall in love with, is those things where it's like, nope, no one else but this person would have written or drawn this.
Yeah, that's so fucking good. Like, I remember, like, it sucks that so much of Western comics is forced to be cape shit just because of just because it had the reality of what sells. Like, I remember when I was younger and there was like the Matt Fraction Hawkeye thing was the big hit that everyone was hyping, and I like read that. I'm like, this is pretty cool. And then when I was nearing the end, I'm like, wait a minute, like, is there just surely they're not gonna just do more Arrow guy adventures after this is over? Like, why would you?
Or it'll go back to the way it was before, or like it'll yeah.
Well, what else? What's another starter pack manga?
Well, those are, I think, the big obvious ones that I've like talked about for years. And honestly, I keep bringing those up because like I still buy volumes of those. Those are still coming to my house. Like I've been reading them for years, and I don't collect a lot of new series. But let me throw out a bunch. Okay, Masashi Tanaka's Gone. Gon. This is about a 2-foot tall T-Rex with a giant head.
I'm already on board.
It is a completely wordless comic. It's the only words are usually like the title page. The first chapter is called Gon Eats and Sleeps, and that is the kind of series Gon is. So Gon is a 2-foot tall dinosaur. It wanders a world that's not prehistoric, but doesn't seem to have any people in it. So it's encountering modern animals at every kind of an ecosystem it can exist in. Sometimes Gon will run afoul of a predator, and it will brutally beat them up and bully them. Sometimes Gon himself is the bully. He is just a dinosaur that is given to his own whims. He mainly wants to eat and sleep. He gets annoyed by others, and he tends to protect small prey animals from larger things, or just coexist with them. The greatest thing about Gon...
This is how I'm trying to be.
Yeah. The greatest thing about Gon is that the artist draws the hell out of this series. Like, Gon himself looks a little cartoony, but he can also be super detailed all of a sudden. You'll get these amazing, like, double-page spreads of, like, here is a picture of Gon standing among hundreds of penguins, and every penguin is lovingly drawn. Here is here is Gon riding in a kangaroo's pouch and beating up a dingo, or like headbutting a koala, or there is this woodpecker that's bothering a worm, so Gon is going to go to the other side of the tree and smash his head into it and knock the tree over. Like it's just, and he's also a seemingly indestructible character, so like even though he deals with much larger things, like they made a game adaptation of Gon for I think the Super Nintendo a long time ago, and I don't think the game is particularly remembered for being good, but it has a fantastic end state, which is you don't lose because Gon dies, you lose because Gon gets angry and annoyed by all the things you let him get hit by, so he throws a tantrum, headbutts the earth, and the earth splits in two. Like, it's just, and that's the game over. He's destroyed the world because he didn't get his way. So, Gon is a great little guy. And some people might remember that he was a guest character in Tekken 3.
No way.
Yeah, he was an unlockable thing in Tekken 3. So he would do he was shorter than all the other characters, and he'd do his headbutt, and he'd have like a deadly fart.
Yo, there he is. He's little as hell. He's got little boxing gloves on.
And here is my favorite thing about Gon. Because it is a wordless comic, you are not beholden to its print run. You can buy a copy from anywhere in the world, and it will be the same comic.
Yo.
So like the chapter page might be in French or Spanish or Italian or Japanese, but beyond that, like you can read everything. And I think it's universally understandable by anybody. Like this is a comic I could gladly hand a child or an old person. Like anybody can just get into it and know what they're reading.
He looks like Bub and Bob.
Yeah.
From Bubble Bobble.
He's a little guy. This whips because, as I fucking said on and on, sometimes I go to Spain to visit fucking family. And in Spain, they have so many more manga stores than they have in America. It's nuts. And it's so exciting because you go into these manga stores and they have so goddamn much. They're filled to the gills with every series you can imagine. And it's like, oh, I've never seen this in print. Oh my God. But like, oh wait, I have to recall, like these are in fucking Spanish.
Yeah, I haven't, my copies are Italian. Right now, I have mainly Italian copies.
How funny. As we know, that's the funniest one to have.
Well, Italy made like a Gon box set that like had a little wraparound cardboard tail that you could use to keep the books in. So that is the copy.
I retract everything mean I've ever said about the Italian people.
So like, but it's just no matter where you buy a copy from, it's going to be a copy you can just enjoy instantly.
Hell yeah.
So that's one of my favorites. I recommend that to anybody who I can. Some others to throw out. What's Michael by Makoto Kobayashi.
Oh, yes.
We love What's Michael. Even my girlfriend read What's Michael.
Yeah, it's
your now wife. You had a big wedding. You spent
Let me
a lot
do
of
that
time
again.
on that.
Sorry. Congratulations. Well, and maybe that proposal was accepted because of What's Michael. Who can say?
Should I say wife again?
No, I think it was funny the way it was.
What's Michael is it's a fucking manga about cat. There's like some sort of ongoing themes, but it's not like a story. It kind of like resets every little vignette resets. And sometimes Michael is a cat. Sometimes Michael can like stand on 2 feet and talk like Garfield. Other times he's normal. But like the thing about What's Michael that is so jaw dropping, because it is just a cute slice of life about a cat. But no other manga draws cats and the motions of cats and also the expressions of cats so accurately. If you live with a cat, you will see things, very subtle things that your cat does, depicted so well on the page that you'll be like, did the mangaka meet my cat? But no, it's just Michael.
Yeah, it's Michael. And I mean, that's one of the other beautiful things about What's Michael too, is like it kind of changes tone rapidly sometimes. So it'll be like here's a chapter of like really well observed cat behavior and also how stupid cat owners can be and like the silly things that we do to try to impress our cats or whatever. And like the next chapter will be like
Michael
can talk in this chapter and he's walking on hind legs and he talks. And then like
he's playing poker.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Yeah, he's wrestling, or he's doing something really goofy, or like Kobayashi's really good at drawing like musical sequences on a manga page, so he loves just like, here's 5 pages of all the characters doing a choreographed dance, and then they'll just go right back to what they were doing. And
that's the I think the most iconic and rightly so sequence of What's Michael is Michael is doing like realistic cat stretches that you will see if you look at a cat, and then it seamlessly transitioned into Michael doing like a dance sequence, and then it ends back with, you know, another normal cat stretch, and then he's back to normal.
So I'm really glad that you all have read that one, and that one is still in print. Dark Horse has done omnibuses for that, and so there's 2. You should read them. Wonderful series. All right, let's get into some like weird, I guess, some weird stuff. Some stuff that's not in print, some stuff that has limited prints. True lightning round here. There's an invitation from a crab by Panpanya. This is a really kind of magical realist, kind of almost reads like a dream journal. It goes into really strange territory. Like, here's a chapter of this character working in like a coconut factory and all the ways that job sucks. And here is a chapter where they're following a crab around, or here is a chapter where their dog can talk because they put a device in its head, but it's kind of a nightmare. And here is a chapter where their grandmother keeps buying them, you know, really intricate, weird gadgets, but then they increasingly don't know what they're for or why they're buying them for them, and then grandma dies and they feel very melancholy about it. Or I have a talking fish, and I don't know if the fish is talking to me because it doesn't want to die, or because because it's meaningful. So that's a really good one. Invitation to a Crab, published by Denpa, still out there. Go get it. Another book from that author's coming soon. So a really weird one I like that's not in print right now, but you can probably find somewhere, is Bakune Young by Toyokazu Matsunaga. This is one of the most grotesque looking manga. It is just, I don't know, it's hard to classify, but...
What was the name? I want to be grossed out.
Bakune Young by Toyokazu Matsunaga. It's just really ugly looking characters, but in like a really fantastic, beautiful way. It's hard to describe, but like the story is essentially that one day a guy gets really angry at a pachinko parlor, and the tantrum he throws at the pachinko parlor eventually becomes the entire world's problem.
Yo, this is falling down with Michael Douglas.
It's falling down if like it was drawn in a really, really, really ugly way, but like an ugly, beautiful way. And the guy like starts stealing armor that belonged to like Hideyoshi Toyotomi from the 16th century and holding the Japanese government to ransom for like $1 trillion. And
this truly is disgusting.
And there's like a ninja in it named Johnson Membo Death. and things like that. And also there is that I bring that up because that was in Pulp magazine, which was the first magazine I read Ito and a bunch of other people in back in the early 2000s. That was a shortly lived Viz line for their more grotesque and erotic and horror works and things. It didn't last more than a couple years, but Bakune Young's in there. I also bring Bakune Young up because I just started reading something called Paper Q, which was a webcomic that artist did on his own because he was tired of working in the industry, I think. But that one is available. Paper Q is a story about a kid that's growing limbs out of his head and has an infectious disease called Paper Q. And that is available officially as a pay-as-you-go, pay-as-you-like comic that was translated by one of your listeners, I believe, Carlo V. Carlo V has been working with Matsunaga to translate Paper Q. The best parts of Paper Q that I've read so far, though, are the fucked up government guys that have like weird lizard eyes and act animalistic and kind of chase and try to murder this child at every available encounter. There's a really hilarious page I love where one of them is like floating face down in the water. A seagull lands on it and just instantly grabs the seagull and starts like wolfing it down because it's been in the ocean for a long time. So yeah, Carlo V translated that. It's great. And I'm trying to think if there's any other thing I can throw. And then also Drifting Classroom. That's where we started. Read the Drifting Classroom. It is a completely deranged work by a genius. And is the cornerstone of all horror manga. Like, that is the grail.
Drifting Classroom is very... I don't want to say funny, but the way they The thing that kind of took me out with Drifting Classroom is the way the main character is depicted running. It's like the most cartoon leg, like Fred Flintstone shit.
It's how they run in Die Dark.
Yes.
Where they have their arms stuck straight out and one leg 90 degrees in front and one leg 90 degrees in back.
But anyway, yeah, that's a lot of... Thank you for the recommendations. My follow-up question is, have you heard of the series called Dragon Ball?
Dragon Quest?
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, it's a stupid show. I can't believe you would mix it up like that. There's no such thing as a manga about ball. That's crazy. Jesus Christ. That's all the time we have for Anime Sickos. We gotta say thank you to our guest, Minovsky. Holy shit. What an honor to have you on our show and talk about your posting philosophy and to tell us about mangas. I don't know about manga that people don't tell me about. And you told me about some fucking crazy shit just now that I'm gonna read. I'm looking at these Bakune Young panels. They're so gross.
Every face is fucked up.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Hey, I am going to, before I give my own plug, I am going to slip one more thing in that I think that you should read, because it is not in print. I don't know if anyone's going to publish it over here, despite efforts to get more Kazuo Umezu. But if you liked The Drifting Classroom, please read what I think is his just most... I have no idea where he came from when he made this series called 14. That is about a lump of chicken flesh that becomes sentient, turns into a guy in a lab coat named Chicken George, and increasingly goes wild places from there. But I only bring this up because I need your listeners to know that a page like this exists in a comic. But they're deep into 14, multiple volumes into the series. Things have escalated to a point where the President of the United States is in a starship shaped like a tyrannosaur. The world is being completely annihilated by demons. All the plants are turning against things. Everything is going awful. And the president's wife calls him on a video screen and says, "Dear, the world is in chaos. The people, they need some relief. They need something to put them into peaceful dreams before they die. It's time. You should legalize marijuana." And the president yells, "Marijuana!" He's so outraged by this proposition in a dying Earth. And so that is why you should read Kazuo Umezu's 14. The man is a genius. And you can follow me on Twitter at MinovskyArticle, where I will post pages of things like this in a much more laid-back format than my infomercial pitch speed I hit at the end here.
Dear Lord.
Awesome.
Manga rules. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you.
I had a blast. It was my pleasure. And as I said before we started recording, I'm going to pull back the curtain. I'm going to kill kayfabe for you all a little bit here. But this truly is one of the most professional experiences I've had being on a podcast. It's very organized, and I really enjoy what you're doing, and I enjoyed my time here. So thank you very much.
That means a lot. We think a really good bit is when idiots do a good job. So that was our philosophy behind that.
That's part of the joke. Jokes, you know what humor is? It's when something unexpected happens and you go, "What?" And, a dumbass being good at things. You'd never think that would happen. And yet, every day. Excellent. Show's over. Bye-bye.
Declare war on content brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.